Hi, hello friends. Welcome to another episode. In this video, we'll be talking about basics of MRI shoulder. As a orthopedic surgeon's point of view, what are the things we look after? So I'm not going into hi-fi things. I'm just touching the basics. So basically, we see in three planes: axial, coronal, and sagittal. So axial plane is like how do you cut the carrots? Okay, they chop on the chopper. Okay, so basically we are seeing from the top to the bottom. Okay, so the first structure what we'll be seeing will be the acromion and the clavicle. As you know, the clavicle will be anterior and the acromion will be the lateral structure. Basically we'll be seeing one muscle in the superior aspect, that is the supraspinatus. The supraspinatus fibers will be in a plane along the spine of the scapula. So coming down a bit, slowly now we are entering into the joint. We'll be seeing infraspinatus along with the supraspinatus. Then if you still go into the joint, then we'll be seeing the superior glenohumeral ligament. If you still go down, then we'll be seeing the middle glenohumeral ligament and the biceps tendon. You know the biceps tendon is bit anterior. So in that way you can tell which is anterior and which is posterior. The structures which are present before biceps tendon, the thick band strike structure, that is the subscapularis tendon, the hyperintense signal, that is the subscapular bursa, and two triangular like structures here, they are the anterior labrum, this is the posterior labrum. And as you are in the joint, you are going further down, then you will be seeing the IGHL, inferior glenohumeral ligament. Okay, so you are coming from the top to the bottom. First thing will be the clavicle, acromion. If you still come down, then you will be seeing the superior glenohumeral ligament, biceps tendon, then middle glenohumeral ligament, then IGHL, then anterior labrum, posterior labrum. In this we can see before the glenoid, that is the subscapularis muscle, and posterior to it is the infraspinatus. Because at this level the supraspinatus has already gone, so this is the infraspinatus muscle. So coming to the coronal view, in the coronal view we will be concentrating on the first picture. We are going from the front to the back. The first will be the clavicle, the inferior bony prominence will be the coracoid. We know there is a ligament between the clavicle and the coracoid, that is the coracoclavicular ligament. And the muscle which runs in the anterior part, which traverses along the anterior surface of the glenoid into the LT, is the subscapularis muscle. And this muscle, there is the anterior fibers of the deltoid. And as you go a bit posterior, then you see the CC ligament and the CA ligament, coracoacromial ligament and the coracoclavicular ligament. This is the proper subscapularis muscle. Then you are still going into the joint. Then you are seeing the axillary recess, then the biceps anchor, the CA ligament. Now you are able to appreciate the supraspinatus muscle. This is the supraspinatus muscle, fusiform shape, and this is the insertion. This coronal picture is very, very important in recognizing the tears of the supraspinatus tendon. And this is another important image where we see for the axillary recess, because we know in case of frozen shoulder or periarthritis of the shoulder, the axillary recess, the size will come down. And this is suprascapular nerve and vessels we will be seeing for any impingement. Then comes the bulkier muscle, that is the infraspinatus. So in the coronal, first you will see the subscap before the glenoid. Then if you go supraspinatus above the glenoid, then after supraspinatus, that is the infraspinatus muscle. Then below the infraspinatus in the posterior aspect, that is the teres minor muscle. So always you have to see all the three planes and correlate accordingly. So this is what we were taught in the MBBS, the quadrangular space, the two triangular spaces. So the infraspinatus and the teres minor you can appreciate. So we'll just revise once again. In the axial images, we'll be going from the top to the bottom. In this, we are seeing the clavicle, the lateral end of the clavicle and the acromion. It's still coming down. This is the supraspinatus tendon. That is the spine of the scapula. In this, we'll be having a doubt which is anterior and which is posterior. We'll go till the biceps tendon. Biceps tendon is anterior, so and this bony prominence which is seen anteriorly, that is the coracoid process. And this one axial image where we are concentrating on the biceps tendon, whether biceps tendon is in its place or gone or subluxated, then any bony contusion, any contusion near the lesser tuberosity, and any edema surrounding the subscapularis tendon. Then we'll be seeing regarding the labrum, anterior labrum, posterior labrum. Then we'll see for any bony bankarts. Usually, most common will be the around 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock position. The capsulolabral detachment is described as the Bankart's lesion. If it is associated with the bony fragment, that is described as bony Bankart's. So this is one picture. The muscle which is anterior to the glenoid is the subscapularis and posterior to the glenoid is the infraspinatus, because here we have already entered into the joint and the supraspinatus is already passed. Then coming to the coronal, we are going from the front to the back. The front will be seen the subscapularis muscle. This is subscapularis. The two bony structures are the clavicle above and the coracoid below and medial to the bony point of the clavicle. Then we will appreciate the CC and the coracoclavicular and the coracoacromial ligaments. Subscapularis muscle, we just go down. Superior to the glenoid is the supraspinatus. Will still go posteriorly. Then this is the infraspinatus and the posterior most cuts behind the glenoid, behind the scapula will be the infraspinatus and the teres minor. Coming to the sagittal peaks, this is a very, very important peak where the superior bony prominence will be the clavicle, the anterior point will be the coracoid. Coracoid will be pointed anteriorly, and this muscle is the subscapularis muscle. This is the spine of the scapula which is posterior. In the spine of the scapula, between the spine of the scapula and the scapula, we will be seeing the supraspinatus. Below the spine of the scapula is the infraspinatus. Still, this is the end-phase view of the glenoid. This is what we see in the 3D CT scan. In this picture, we will be observing for any bony Bankart. So now we are seeing this is the supraspinatus, this is the infraspinatus muscle, this is the teres minor. All three merge into going to form the cuff, and we'll be seeing in the next pictures. This is how we look at supraspinatus, infraspinatus and the teres minor. This is the anterior fibers of deltoid, this is the posterior fibers of the deltoid. Coming to the rotator cuff tears, they are divided into partial thickness, full thickness, and we also need to see their shape and size of detraction. Coming to the partial rotator cuff thickness tears, they are again divided into A, B, C. Articular surface tears, bursal surface tears and a complete tear. In this picture you can see there is the articular side tear and again divided into 1, 2 and 3. The one that is less than 1/4 of the thickness, grade 2 is less than half of the thickness, grade 3 is more than half of the thickness. Coming to the bursal side, the tear is seen on the bursal surface. Again, it is divided into grade 1, grade 2 and grade 3 based on the thickness of the tear. There is again one more type, that is the interstitial tear, where you see hyperintense signal or edema within the fibers of the supraspinatus. Full thickness tears are easy to diagnose in MRI when compared to the partial thickness tears. This is another classification for the supraspinatus tear. Is a very important classification for even the prognosis. This is a Patty's classification. In the stage 1, the stump will be near the bony insertion, the supraspinatus stump. In the stage 2, the supraspinatus stump will be at the humerus head. In the stage 3, it will be at the glenoid. This is a Patty's classification. The presence of tendon defect filled with fluid is the most important direct sign of the rotator cuff tear. What are the indirect signs? Subdeltoid bursal effusion, medial dislocation of the biceps, fluid along the biceps tendon. They are all the indirect signs of the rotator cuff tears. Coming to the other important classification, that is the Gotelier classification, that we'll see. And very important thing is the rotator interval. Rotator interval is seen in the sagittal cuts. It's the space between the subscap, supraspinatus and the base of the coracoid. In this picture we will be seeing it. This is the supraspinatus tendon, this is the subscap, this is the coracoid. The contents are superior glenohumeral ligament and the coracohumeral ligament, the long head of the biceps, superior glenohumeral ligament, MGHL, and the coracohumeral ligament. We'll do rotator interval release in case of periarthritis and frozen shoulder. We also release the rotator interval there. Coming to the Gotelier classification, it tells regarding the fat content in the muscle. These are the stages. In the stage 1, it is a normal muscle without any fat. In the stage 0, in the stage 1, the few fatty streaks within the muscle. In the stage 2, the fat is less when compared to the muscle. In the stage 3, fat and muscle are same. In the stage 4, you can see here, it's predominantly muscle. And there is one sign mentioned, that is the Janetti sign or tangent sign, drawn between coracoid and the spine of the scapula. If the muscle crosses this line, it means the muscle content is more, and if the muscle does not cross, it means the fat content is more. This is a coronal picture of the MRI showing complete supraspinatus tear at the insertion. Coming to the Hill Sachs, it is seen in the posterolateral aspect of the humeral head. It is seen in the axial pictures. It is often associated with the Bankert lesion of the glenoid. Whenever there is a Hill Sachs, should always see for a Bankert. So without Bankerts, a Hill Sachs cannot happen. For the bony Bankerts, we will advise for a CT scan, because here we are interested in knowing the amount of the bone defect, which is accurately shown in the CT scan rather than MRI. There are several studies showing CT is superior in knowing the bone defect when compared to the MRI. This is one coronal picture where we are seeing for the axillary recess. You can see the axillary pouch. It is contracted in case of adhesive capsulitis. This is one X-ray picture showing rotator cuff arthropathy. We can see the proximal migration of the humerus, decreased acromio-humeral distance, the arthritic changes in the humeral head. So whenever there is a rotator cuff arthropathy, we will be seeing severe retraction of the tendon. Whenever we see an X-ray of this sort, it means there is a torn rotator cuff. We know the rotator cuff functions to keep the humeral head in its position. It depresses the humeral head, it prevents the proximal migration of the humerus. So whenever we see an X-ray of this sort of where there is a proximal migration of the humerus, it tells the rotator cuff is torn and it's massively retracted. And I have not touched many topics like Buford complex, slap tear, sublabral foramen, so many other things. I want to touch only the basics regarding the shoulder MRI. I hope this video is helpful to you. Thank you. Bye bye. And one more thing I want to stress before ending this is clinical examination of the patient and taking the history is very, very important. It gives 70-80% of our diagnosis, and then remaining 20-30% is the MRI. The clinical history itself, considering his age, what is the history, what are the clinical complaints, and our examination will come to know what problem we are dealing with, whether we are dealing with the instability or we are dealing with the rotator cuff, torn rotator cuff, are we dealing with adhesive capsulitis, are we dealing with rotator cuff arthropathy. So clinical examination and history taking are very important. MRI plays a smaller role. I hope this video is helpful to you. Thank you. Bye bye.